Greetings, Facebook.
Good morning, everyone.
What do they need to bring for the session, Sabine?
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please get your pen and paper or however you go about taking notes so that once we jump into the session, you'll be prepared. And we're gonna talk about how you're richer than you think. So get your items ready. Thank you for coming in. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Louise.
Good morning, Sabine. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Bimola. Good morning, Veronica, Andrea, Stacy, Marion. Thank you guys for joining.
Great morning and grand rising all.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope you guys are excited. I love that everyone's up very early, ready to participate.
What are they going to need to participate, Sabine?
Yes, so again, make sure you have your devices ready to take notes or your pen and paper, your notebook. So we're going to give out a lot of useful information. Good morning, good morning. Hello, everyone still coming in. Anyone who's just joining, just make sure you get anything that you need to take notes. So your devices, your pen, your paper, whatever you're comfortable with. We're going to share some information about how you're richer than you think.
Peace and blessing, family.
Peace and blessings. Multi-millionaire. I love it. Morning, Tia.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, together, we're learning, discerning. We're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am going to go ahead and get right into the presentation. The slides will be up in a moment, but I'll get started and say thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for allowing me into this wonderful community. We're going to be talking about this morning how you're richer than you think, understanding the wealth and power to impact that you possess. I am your facilitator for this morning. My name is Sabine Franco. I am an attorney. I have been in practice for about 10 years. I run the Ambitious Legacy Firm. I'm a founder, and we help plan legacies, protect assets, and put the generational into generational wealth through estate and legacy planning. And so I wanted to let you know a little bit about my experience. So here we go. Thank you, thank you. You can go to the next slide, yes. So my firm focuses on asset protection. I tell you, we help plan legacies, right? And get the generational into generational wealth. That's through estate planning and administration. So if someone wants to plan for their life and legacy, we help them through that process. And we also help in the unfortunate situation that someone passes away. I am an educator. I am an adjunct professor at my law school alma mater, which is Hofstra University. I'm a speaker. I've spoken nationally and internationally on asset protection and protecting your real estate assets, planning your legacies. I'm also an author. I recently authored a book called You're Richer Than You Think, which is on topic for today. And I also have a podcast called the Ambitious Legacy Podcast. And these are some areas where you may have seen me: The Breakfast Club, Fox Soul, Essence, Earn Your Leisure. And so I am so delighted to be able to speak to you guys today about this topic. Let's go to the next slide. So a quick disclaimer, I am an attorney. However, I'm not your attorney unless we both sign an engagement letter or a service agreement, so formally. So everything I'm telling you today, please take it as information only and not legal advice. You should always have a one-on-one consultation with a legal professional to obtain legal advice. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to pose a question to you all. How many of you think that you are not rich enough to plan for your legacy? I'm going to look in the chat. You guys are going to put that in the chat and let me know. Do you think that you're not ready? That you're not rich enough to put a plan in place for your family, for your loved ones, for your life? Anyone? Okay. All right. So maybe you just want to think about that, right? You just want to let that marinate in your thoughts. Just want to make sure I see you all. Yeah, you just want to let that, flow. How many of you think you don't have much of value to contribute? Are you thinking, I don't have a lot of assets. I'm not sure what I could actually, do. What is it that you think you might that you might be feeling at this moment? So these are the things I want you guys to just start allowing to, come forward. Let's go to the next slide.
Well, Sabine, I can help here.
Sure.
So for me, I don't know where to start. And I think a few of us might have that same notion here in the space, just not knowing where to start for future planning. What do I need? How do I even know if I am rich enough or not? I can't really say if I don't know what should be included in what I'm contributing to the future.
Okay, thank you for that, Chantal. And that is something that a lot of people are feeling. This is an area that just is a little gray for a lot of people. It causes a lot of sort of confusion and uncertainty. So thank you for sharing that. We'll definitely clear some of that up today. Anybody else want to share? Okay, you guys are going to help me out this morning, right? Let me talk to you. Okay, so sorry, I just want to. Okay, so we are.
Sister Teresa Scott, I'm sorry, ma'am.
That's okay.
I feel that I do have a lot of information to be richer than I think. It's just sometimes having a problem with managing my thoughts and how to get it, like there's times when I get different thoughts. I mean, they're good ideas, but it's just managing and just being consistent is the issue.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So I do notice as well that a lot of times people are not, and not to anybody's fault, but maybe don't have a clear picture of their wealth and don't know how to organize that and how to basically package that to make sure that it's a clear understanding and that you have a clear roadmap to transition your wealth. One, to enjoy it during your lifetime, but also be able to transition at some time in the future. So thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else?
Yes, good morning. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
good
can't
morning.
put my camera on. I'm breastfeeding at this moment.
No worries.
So I actually work for a financial firm, but we actually refer out, to like for estate planning and for wills and everything. So this is actually like great that you're here because I really do want to know, what goes into details because we're not the agents, and definitely would like to collab with you if I can. People could come to you and and give you the business, but to actually know, the ins and out of how to actually plan your estate, I don't know because we're not trained in that. So I'm just
Okay.
excited to see, what you have to let us know.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Mafia or Valencia?
Valencia, I gotta change that. Valencia.
Good morning, Valencia.
Good morning.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We want to give you guys a clear understanding, so like paint a picture and demystify all of these different areas. So if at any time you sort of want to jump in, if there's a moment, you can speak and share, or you could raise your hand and I'll be happy to sort of like answer your questions along the way as well. So this is the wealth that we're talking about, right? A lot of times people, individuals, families have all these different areas of wealth within their lives that they don't realize. So real estate, you may own a home, or you may be expecting to inherit a home from a loved one. But many people, own at least the real estate that they're living in. And that is one asset. Typically, that's going to be one of your major assets. And a lot of times people are confused as to how you actually pass on a home. It's not enough to just say, okay, when I pass away, you nephew can get this home, or you daughter, it's gonna, everybody knows that it's yours. And this is the case even if you are maybe not an only child, but even if you are the child that's caretaking the parent. Sometimes if you have multiple siblings, one will move out, and then the rest of the siblings, most of the siblings will move out, but there'll be one that stays behind and cares for the parent and does everything necessary, takes them to their doctor's appointments and, maybe helps pay the bills and maintain the home. It doesn't mean that the home will automatically go to you or that individual, right? There has to be something more. And that's where an estate plan comes in. And we're going to get into the different vehicles that we use to help people transition their wealth. However, one of the ways to transfer real estate is either through changing the deed, through doing a will or a trust. And there are different reasons why we would do those different scenarios, which we'll also get into. Then we have bank accounts. Most of us have bank accounts. Anyone who has even a small amount, it's worth having some sort of plan on how you're going to transition that bank account, because if you were to, God forbid, pass away, or if you were to fall ill, there wouldn't be anyone who can just go to the bank and take out that money. Like if they had to, help you with your expenses or help, cover any funeral or death expenses, they wouldn't have access to those bank account funds. So some of the tools that can help you transition those accounts is either one, at the bank, you have those accounts with a designation, a beneficiary designation. So what that simply means is that the bank puts a note on the account that says, if I were to pass away, then I would want this individual to receive these funds, right? And that is how one way to transfer a bank account, payable on death. Thank you so much. So sometimes you have to actually change the account to a payable on death account. And sometimes, different banks have their different sort of ways of doing so, but across the board, it's generally going to be a payable on death, right? That's one way. Another way would be through a will, and we'll talk about how that actually happens. And the third way would be through a trust. You could also, as another alternative, add somebody to your account. But if you add someone to your account and they become a joint holder of that account, you want to make sure that that's the person you want to actually receive all of those funds, because in the event someone passed away, that person would be the sole owner of those funds, right? So you want to make sure that that is your actual intention. I want to just go back for a second. You know what? I'll just do it from here, because I did want to introduce to you the concept of estate planning, just because I don't want it to be cloudy for anyone before we get into the transferring the assets. So I'm just going to take a step back and say that, the goal is that you want to leave a mark in this world, right? You want to leave your legacy, and you don't want to necessarily leave a mess. And what happens is when people pass away, nobody knows where any of these assets are, if they exist, where to find them, who the institution is, who the holder is. And so because of that, it makes it very confusing for families. And a lot of times assets even get lost. Yesterday, I had done a post about, forgetting his name right now, the lead actor in Black Panther. And so if somebody remembers his name, put it in the chat for me. Chadwick Boseman, thank you. And so he passed away with about $4 million in assets. And 2 years later, because his family, his parents and his wife were, I guess, fighting over the estate, it was diminished to $2.3 million. So 2 years of fighting, legal fees, court fees, appraisal fees, all those things took about 1.6 million of his estate. And so that is a significant amount of money, especially in communities of color, that can make tremendous impact. And maybe you're saying, I don't necessarily have $4 million, so does that really matter? Well, whatever it is that you have, yes, it does matter. One, you spent time and energy to acquire whatever it is that you own. And second, it can really make a difference in somebody's life, and no matter what. Maybe it'll jumpstart an investment account. Maybe it'll help be a down payment on a home, or help start a business. These are all the things that could sort of, the wealth that we acquire can help somebody get a good start, right? So what is estate planning? I wanted to talk about real quick. So estate planning is the process of creating a plan for your final estate in the event of your death, right? It helps to basically make sure that all of your properties, your financial affairs will be in order, and that those you care for are taken care of, right? And the difference between estate planning and legacy planning is basically the legacy aspect includes providing direction, providing wisdom, information, and guidance for your loved ones. And so no matter what level of tangible assets you have, we all have a legacy that we could leave, right? We all have life experiences that we've gone through. We all have, lessons. And if I would have known then what I know now, those are the types of information sharing and lessons that we also want to make sure that we include in blessing our loved ones, the young people around you, in your family. We all have sort of a responsibility to provide that information. Hey, Crystal, I see you in the chat. So what is an estate? So just to demystify for everyone, when we say estate, what are we talking about? So the slide, if you could put that slide back up with all of the assets. An estate is all of the assets that you own at your death. So anyone of those particular assets, your real estate, your bank accounts, your business, right? Your investment accounts, there we go, life insurance, automobile, all of those things are part of your estate. And that's what makes up your net worth. So your net worth is all of your assets minus the liabilities that you may have. Does anybody want to jump in and share here? Is any of this making sense to you or raising a question for you? I see someone put in the chat that banks do not recognize a will. And to an extent, that is correct, right? Banks don't, you can't take a will and go to the bank and say, okay, give me an account. You have to go through the process of going through the court system. So we're definitely going to talk about that court process so that we sort of know, you sort of know and understand how do we go about getting that asset transition. Shawnee, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. Hey, Sabine, I'm so happy to
Hi.
see your face.
Thank you.
So thank you for just sharing your brilliance with us. I'm just thinking about myself over here, and I know better, but I have resources, assets for my family, and I realize if something happened today, God forbid, they wouldn't know where the hell to look for the things that I have, like my life insurance, which I've had for many, many years.
Right.
But that piece, I think my daughter would be able to figure it out, but why should she, right? And then the other piece that's a big one for me is that I have multiple accounts, investment accounts, bank accounts, and they wouldn't know how to get in there. And just thinking what you said about Chad, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if that came from the infighting and money being used up because of that, or just it's sitting there for so long and then the money drained out because they were going back and forth for 2 years. So I'm curious about that, but also just owning that I haven't sat down and literally put together what would be needed for them to access everything, how much everything is, so that they know, because I want my family to know it's not a secret.
Yeah, you're so right. We don't want it to be a secret, and we want to normalize these sort of conversations. Now, of course, you need some level of, some level of privacy with your assets, but to a certain degree, you want to make sure that you share this information, and then when you put a plan together, that it's clear and that your family, your loved ones will be able to pick up the baton and sort of run with the instructions without mystery. Because when we think about that time, when families are experiencing loss, it's difficult. You already have a lot to deal with, in trying to navigate the world without your loved one. Now you have to figure out, okay, where do I look for, insurance, for what bank accounts, what banks did they bank with? All this stuff becomes a puzzle that has to be pieced together. And that's what we want to sort of avoid. So before I take the next hand, I'm just going to explain a little bit more about Chadwick Boseman. So the issue with his estate is that because he didn't leave a will, he got married right before he passed away, probably like a year or two. He already knew he was sick, but he got married to his girlfriend, and they had been together for a number of years, but it was a private ceremony, so his family didn't know. So when he passed away, and then they find out that she's claiming to be his wife, they contested his estate. So when either you have a will or you don't have a will, both has to go through the court system. And when that matter goes through the court system, all the loved ones who could have stand to receive from the estate has to be notified, and they have an opportunity to object and basically state their opinion and ask the court to do something different. And so the courts have a little bit of discretion there. They can use their own judgment and basically, based on the evidence that they find or whatever's presented, make a decision. So in this case, it seems like the wife, who would have gotten everything because he has no kids, it seems like she agreed to split the estate with the parents. So they each are going to get about, a little over $1 million of his assets. But it probably took 2 years, because one, they have to go through the court system, two, they have to appraise all of his assets, and then there was disagreements there. So that's really what happened. So is just really a waste because, you know, his situation is unfortunate, but he did know or could have had a lot of reason to think that he may not make it. So he had a lot of opportunity to do that. Multi-millionaire, I'll take your hand.
A friend of mine was telling me that her friend husband had a bank account, and because her name was not on the bank account, she couldn't get access to the money of her husband. So I was like, how do people avoid stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm quite sure could have been on it, but the bank is giving her a problem, and you know, she wasn't able to you know, access her husband money. So
Yep,
how does
and
a person like
navigate
know?
that, right? So this happens often, you know, when spouses don't have each other on their bank accounts. What, you know, we assume, I think, you know, generally the public assumes that, oh, that's my spouse, they'll be able to go to the bank and just like, you know, get access to my account, but they cannot, because the bank has a privacy relationship with you, like a fiduciary is what we call it. They have a duty to be responsible over your funds and protect you. And so think about it, where people are married but they're estranged, you know, you may not want your spouse to go to the bank and get your assets, and so the bank, you have to sort of let them know and give them direction. And so if there's a will, you have to take that to the court, have the court give you letters, which is what it's called, and for you to have authority to go access that account. And if there is no will, same thing, but because she's a spouse, she would have the authority to be the one to go. But it's a lot of hurdles to jump through, where if there's a plan that makes it easier, like payable on death or a trust, perhaps, depending on the situation, that would have been an easier situation for her to navigate. She has options. So if it's something that she still needs help with, please be sure to have her reach out.
I will, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
All right, we have Abimbola.
Yeah.
You back? You making breakfast?
Peace. Yes, so I have a one daughter, only child. I'm the one that on my bank account I put pay on death. And that way all she has to do is present a death certificate. But my lawyer is the one, when I did my will, my lawyer is the one that advised me on that. But the other thing that I've done that's very important, because we live in different states. Okay. So I have something that's is everything you should know. And so I have that, and I have a file, and she knows where it is. And so I have all of my accounts, and I have all my passwords and all of that. And so periodically, like I'm going to go see her, I'm leaving tomorrow, and I'm going to go see her. And then I take that and I make sure that she understands where things are. And on that, I have, for example, life insurance is in the drawer filed under L and such like that. So I think that's very important that we do it. And I know Shani was saying something that she hasn't done that, but that's very important to do it now while we have a sound mind. And I mean, for example, in terms of I own a home, and so my daughter already knows that I'm leaving this home to my grandsons and not her. She's upset, but so what? Her name is on everything else. Okay. But I think it's important, and then that eliminates that fighting, you know, when you pass away. So you be transparent and you let them know what you have. So that's what I want to share.
No, you shared a lot, and that's wonderful information. Kudos to you, Abimbola. Thank you for, you know, taking control of your legacy and making that decision to, you know, make sure you empower your child so that she is not wondering what's going on. And that is something that's really cool. I do actually have something called a legacy lifeline that actually I'd love to share with you with you all, that will help you to create something like that everything you should know, where you could list all of your assets. You can list, you know, passwords, username, and things like that to help make it easy for people to navigate, or a trusted person to navigate and get a hold of those assets. So that's really, really good. Was there any other hands? That's it.
No, that's great. And also with the will, I've always thought, like, when you create this will, does it go into the abyss? Do you tell someone where it is? Do I need my lawyer to know? I don't have a lawyer. What happens when you create your will? Is it a Word doc? Like, what's from A to Z? How do you make a will? And then who's responsible to tell people where that is once you do transition?
Yeah, so a will is literally a document. A will is a document that basically gives directions and instructions to your love. You're actually giving instructions to the court how you would want your assets to be distributed, like who gets your home, who gets your accounts, who gets your investment accounts, and things like that, if you choose to do it that way. And so it is a living document. It has to be signed in a certain way. It has to be stapled, one complete document, and it has to be brought to the court if something were to happen to you. So states vary. Some states do have like a registry where you could file it, but some states do not. And so it typically becomes public when someone files it. The problem with that, because your assets are not owned by your will, right? They're owned by you. A problem with that is that sometimes when people find the will, and it could be somebody who doesn't like what the will says, if they were to destroy that will, then, and they have a better position if the state, so for instance, let me just be more clear. If someone passes away and they have no will, and their estate is opened in court, right? So it's called administration. So you go to the court, say, hey, this person that passed away, I want to, get their assets or distribute their assets to next of kin. It goes like this. It would be your spouse, if you only have a spouse. If not, then your spouse and your children, if you have children. If you have no spouse, but just children, then just your children, and then your parents, and then your siblings, and then etc. Right? So whomever exists, it's basically stops there and goes to that person. So really, Abimbola, if your daughter had any interest to not have the real estate go to the grandchildren, and she wanted that real estate, she could essentially destroy the will. And then in that case, the courts would give her the real estate because she's the next person in line to receive. She's not going to do that, but I just wanted to. You're going to say something?
Yes, because my lawyer filed and she registered my will.
Okay, so in your
So
what state are
I
you
have
in?
a copy, I have an original, and the lawyer registered it. It's registered. But my daughter can do whatever she want to do. I just did what I wanted to do. When I'm gone, I don't care. But while I'm alive, I said what I wanted. Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
what state are you in?
I'm in Georgia.
Okay. So some states allow you to register it, and some states don't have that function. So a will, to answer you clearly, Chantel, is a document that's drafted with instructions on how to process, how to distribute your assets. I'll give a little bit more details on that as well.
Thank you. No, so I knew that. I just didn't know where to begin in creating it. And then, so you have to have a lawyer involved, right? So it's not like I'm making up a will, I put it in my desk drawer, my best friend knows where it is, and that's it. So there's a whole process for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so people have created wills that may stand up in court. The issue with creating your own will is that you don't know what you don't know, right? So for instance, if you say, I want my best friend to be my executor, which would be the person who has the authority to give out these assets and what have you, and you don't put specific language in there, the courts could decide that she's not fit to be the executor because they have like this hurdle that has to be jumped where the person has to post a bond, right? So they have to have a percentage of the estate in their own funds to put with a bond company so that they can be in charge of all of these assets, right? And it depends on how much the estate is. And so if you don't have specific language in your will, then the courts might not have that person be the executor. And they might hire a professional executor. And now that money is coming from your estate. So it's just that you don't necessarily know what you don't know. You don't know if you signed the will correctly. And everybody's situation is unique. So there may be things that you need in there based on your situation that you don't have because you did it yourself. Now, if somebody's on their deathbed and they're like, I need to get a will out and I don't have time to speak to an attorney, sure, you could write it on a piece of paper and sign it and get it notarized. And that may work to at least give the court some direction to, on what your wishes were, right? So if that's the route you have to take, sure, but that's not the ideal way to plan.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Just thinking of maybe a barrier for people of color having to go to a lawyer, getting that language, not even knowing that you need to go to a lawyer to start that. So this is a whole nother woo session that we need you to come back for. And educate us on start to finish, how to create it, where to go, how to lock it in, all of that.
Sure.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Are you ready to reshare?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So, all right. So I was gonna say for the last slide, some of the assets that were in there, the one with the piggy bank. Yeah. Some of these assets, like your investment accounts, your retirement accounts, your life insurance, you can also add a beneficiary to those accounts. It's much easier than with the bank because typically you could do it online. You can call them or they'll send you a form and you can put that in there. Very important because, again, if you can't afford a lawyer or you don't, that's maybe not your desire, or maybe you don't have assets that need to go through the court or in a trust. If it's just investment, retirement, life insurance, those things you can add a beneficiary to. Just make sure that you update them. One of the issues that we find is that people get married or divorced or separated and never update that beneficiary designation. Or if you have young children, you don't necessarily want to keep them as a beneficiary because they won't be able to receive those funds until they're 18. So that may require a different kind of planning, but just wanted you guys to be aware of those things. And other tangible things like cars, antiques, jewelry, art, you really want to probably have a will to actually pass that on, unless you do something more sophisticated like a trust. So Adam says, how often should you update your beneficiary? Anytime that it doesn't reflect what you would like, right? Anytime that it's stale, meaning the person who was listed is not someone you would want to receive, or if the person passed away and no longer able to receive those assets, or God forbid becomes disabled, then Veronica has her hand up, and you could go to the next slide, Shanta.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I have a will and I listed the real estate and land and to all be equally divided. But as I look at your list, I see the jewelry, the art. I have all those things. Should I have put those specifically in there?
Yes, you should.
And how do I do it? Do I just make a list and send it to the attorney?
Yes, that would be a great way to start. So you create a list of all of the assets that you feel like are valuable that would be necessary to give to a specific person, and send it to your attorney and say, I'd like my will updated to include these gifts. Okay. And so depending on like if you want them split or who you want them to go to, they may need to edit the will and sort of make it clear.
Okay, so every single item that is of value.
Right. So for instance, all of our household items are not necessary to list within the will, but if it's something that, holds value, that is an asset, maybe it appreciates or it's gonna, benefit somebody, then I would list that.
Okay, and I should update and put in my investment, like I didn't put that. I never thought about, it was not something that I thought about. Stocks and bonds, all of that, everything has to be listed.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. And one of the things that happens with investment accounts and things, if nobody knows about them, they go unclaimed. And each state has a department of unclaimed funds. You could Google in your state. New York has $16.5 billion in unclaimed assets. That means people passed away without leaving a destination for their asset. And so one of the largest amounts is about $5 million. $5 million in an investment account went unclaimed. And that could have been as easy as just putting a beneficiary to say, hey, give it to this person. It could be a charity, even if you don't want to give it to, a family member or a friend, you could put it towards a cause. So please make sure that you know.
Okay, so I have one more scenario, which I'm seeing happening with a family member, not a
Okay.
family member, a friend of a family member. My mother's
Okay.
a really good friend.
Okay.
She passed away and she had 4 children and she only left money to one child and left the house
Mhm.
as a business and put it in trust.
Mhm. Oh, you muted, Veronica.
And put the house in trust until he doesn't own it. It belongs to the business
Okay.
until his death.
Okay. And then it goes to someone else?
It goes to charities.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and that scenario, is that a scenario that the other family can fight and win?
Nope. So that's one of the things I wanted to get into, but thank you so much for bringing it up since we're like, we're flowing here. So what that family member did, the person who passed away, they created a revocable trust probably during their lifetime, right? And so she put the assets in the trust. She put with a revocable trust, you can make changes to it. So it's sort of like having an alter ego, and you transfer all of your assets to this alternate, entity, and that entity can own those assets, can control those assets, can, make changes, invest, buy, sell, anything that you essentially could do, right? So during your lifetime, you have the flexibility to do that. When you pass away now, it becomes irrevocable, so it cannot be changed. And all of those rules and directions that were left in that trust remain in that trust. So the person, this scenario, the way they designed it is that they put all the assets in the trust, but let me backtrack one step. With a revocable trust, while you're alive, your creditors, your debtors, anybody who can attack you can attack your trust as well, right? So if you wanted to have protection over some of those assets, depending on the scenario, sometimes what we do is include a business entity within that trust, right? So that business entity gives protection from lawsuits and claims and things like that. So she put the house in that LLC to keep it protected. So one, if something were to happen with the house, like somebody slips and falls and sues, doesn't affect the rest of the assets, and vice versa. If she got into an accident and was sued personally, would not have affected the house within the trust, right? So that was one form of protection. Now, when she passed away, I'm saying she, I don't even know if it's a she, but when she passed away, the assets that are in that trust, because the trust is now irrevocable, it's unchangeable. And so all of those directions are left there for the son. So the son gets to enjoy the property. The son gets to probably get money from the trust, right? And, throughout his lifetime, however, never actually owns the assets personally. And because he never actually owns the assets personally, his debt does not affect those trust assets. If he got married and got divorced, it's not going to affect those trust assets. If he was a doctor or a lawyer or something and got sued, it's not going to affect the trust assets. So everything is protected for this gentleman, right, within the trust. And family members who are upset cannot affect or change these trust assets, right? Because it's how the person personally wanted it to go. And so when he passed away, it'll go to his children or whomever the person had decided. And that is one of the most effective ways to plan if that's your desire, right? And part of the problem with, I think there was someone, I don't know if it was you who said that you leave the house to, like, say, your children and have it split amongst them. So what happens now is if one of did you want the house sold?
Not really. I wanted to know that there was always somebody that could live in it.
Yeah. So what happens because they will all own it, because what happens is the court is not going to hold on to that asset until the next generation. So now what they're going to do is, make sure that they just give it out to them eventually, right? After they go through the court process. So once they all own it, if many of them have debts or, God forbid, child support or any type of thing, that asset could be affected, even though all of them own it, right? Say one of them wants it sold, they could go to the court and say, hey, I want this sold. and the courts will force the sale. They'll all get their piece of the pie, but that's not what you wanted. Right. So that's why it's sort of important to sort of say, well, what is my ultimate goal? What is my outcome? You know, when you guys are working with attorneys on doing your plan, you want to, they should ask you these questions, but these are the questions that you should ponder, right? What is my goal?
So in my instance, what do I do to preserve the home, to preserve the property for future generations?
So you would need to do a trust if that is the outcome that you're looking for.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Any other hands?
No, I don't see any hands right now.
Okay.
That was a great session. We got everything you needed, Veronica.
Yeah, you did. And that you helped me out, Veronica. Got to paint a nice picture for you guys. Yeah. So I'll go back to the slides for a moment and then we'll do a quick check-in.
Yeah, before we do that, let's check in with the community.
Check in
I know
now?
some people have to head out soon. So
Okay. All right. So any of you who have to head out, thank you so much for listening. Veronica helped you get all the gems right in that little moment. So I'm glad we got to do that. My information will be dropped in the chat so that you can connect with me if you'd like, but we're gonna keep it rolling for those of you who can stay, and we'll continue sharing. All right. So since we've gone through what we've gone through, you guys already know for now, right, why you need to plan. And I wanted to pose this question to you. Have you feared planning because you fear that you're bringing on death? This is something that I've found is common with older generations who don't want to sort of have the conversation about planning or are uneasy about planning. You know, is this something that you guys have been faced with personally, or is it something that your family, you know, you've been exposed to? Are you fearful of planning because you're fearing death? Okay. Someone says, I've heard that it makes me sad. Yes, sometimes it makes people sad, especially as they're you know, later on in life, sometimes don't want to even sort of think about it. So I want to reframe that, because we're not planning for death ever, right? Death is a natural flow and part of life, right? We cannot avoid it. It's one thing that's certain, but we're not planning for it. We're planning for life. We're planning for your life, and we're planning for the life of your loved ones as well, once you transition. And what I mean by that is, if you take the moment to sort of plan ahead, you can make sure that your latter days in life are, you have the best opportunities, you have the best, you know, the most comfort, and you actually get to live the way you need to live. One of the things that we fail to do is ask ourselves, what is it that I want? How do I want to live? Right? What are the things that I need? Do I need to live by the beach? Do I want to travel? Do I want to just be comfortable? Do I want to, you know, have friends? Do I want to be near my children? Like, what is it that you actually want? And you can design that for yourself. Typically, you don't need $1 billion to live the comfortable life that we want, right? Not everyone wants to be sailing on yachts every weekend, right? So we don't necessarily need millions and billions of dollars. And once you put a plan in place, you can really tap into the life that you want, the life of your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't live the life of your dreams, no matter where you are financially, because people do it all the time. Right. And so we're planning for life. So when you do put a plan in place, you make informed decisions, you understand the options and the types of things that you can design for yourself. You can be financially organized. One thing I wanted to make sure I get out is having long-term care insurance. So as people get older, you know, right now, to be in either a nursing home or like a rehab facility, if that situation were to present itself, it's about $7,000 a month, right? So who has that much disposable income to spend $7,000 a month on that type of care if it presented itself, right? We all hope it doesn't, but that type of thing tends to deplete people's wealth. And if your wealth is depleted from that type of scenario, then you don't really have anything to leave behind to your loved ones. And so thinking ahead allows you to put a plan in place for these type of things, like as simple as getting a long-term care insurance policy early enough when you can afford it, so that, you know, if something happens, you can be taken care of, and or putting in a plan to protect those assets like we talked about, so that Medicaid and things like that cannot affect them, right? So 2, we're going to save our families thousands of dollars because we want to make sure that we are caring for ourselves in the best way that we can. We want to make sure our family is aware of the assets, which we all talked about. Prevent abuse of vulnerable family members, especially if you have a young child, right? If you have a young child, I have a story about this young lady. Well, she was an adult when she contacted me, but her parent passed away and left a property to herself and her grandmother. Then the grandmother passed away later on, and she was the sole owner. So at the age of 18, one of her family members she was going to medical school. One of her family members talked her into signing over that property to them. And so now later on in life, she realized, oh my God, I basically gave away my inheritance, because she was young, she was vulnerable, and she didn't really know, you know, what she had. And then this family member now wanted her to buy them out, or giving her a hard time to get her asset back. And so this is the type of thing, if you have a young family member, you want to do something like what Veronica had described that her friend had done, is protect them so that nobody can come in and, you know, take away their wealth, take away their legacy. That property could have paid off her medical bills. You know what I'm saying? Her medical education bills, right? So this is the things that we need to talk about. We don't want assets to be lost, and we don't want court or drama. We just want to be prepared. Chantal, you could go to the next slide. And how, like, just like some of you had talked about, you know, when do I update this? How do I, you know, go back and make sure that I am, you know, keeping things up to date? It's a good, anytime there's a change in your life scenario, I don't know where that came from, situation. So you have a child, if you get divorced, or God forbid lose a spouse, you know, if you move to another state, if, you know, your finances change significantly upward or downward, you want to revisit this plan just to say, okay, does everything still work for me? And should everything continue to go? Yes, such a scenario. All right. So another question is, well, you guys shared some of you shared your experiences. Anybody, did this bring anything up for anybody that you want to share at this point? Okay.
For me, my children's father, his mother passed away suddenly a couple weeks ago. So him and his sister right now are going through it. It's so sad to see, you know, because he's more, you know, likes to keep stuff of sentimental value. You know, obviously people want money and stuff like that, but she's like that, you know, like the scrounger gets everything and is rowdy and everything. So it's just like really sad to see you know, the process of everything, you know. So this is like I said in the chat, it's like an on-time Zoom, you know, just for people to be able to plan out, like, your family shouldn't have to go through this. You know, we should do better as individuals. So I definitely appreciate you and your time and what you know.
Sure, no problem. And that's the thing, right? We want to preserve these familial relationships, because especially when you lose somebody, you're going to want those that are around to sort of continue to be close and be there. We're stronger together, we go farther together, right? So also planning preserves the family relationship. And I see this all the time, unfortunately, Valencia, siblings go at it. So one may be an alpha personality and the other one is kind of like passive. And it happens all the time. The alpha tends to take over if they're that type of person. And, you know, the other one either may lose or they may get worn out, just like, you know what, I can't even deal with this level of nonsense. And so it happens all the time, and it's unfortunate, but it's extremely preventable, you know, and not everybody needs, you know, the platinum plan, right? You know, there's simple things that can be done to make these sort of to prevent these things. Multimillionaire.
Teresa? you
You can
come up?
unmute yourself.
Especially in other states. Definitely, if you move to another state, you have to look this up because I was thinking, I've been, contemplating about moving to Georgia.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of states that Georgia has that New York doesn't have. And I really think that when people think about moving and all those kind of things, they need to make sure they look into those things.
So you
Oh,
mute-
Teresa, you're
you're
muffled.
muffled, yeah.
No, I was saying, I feel that when people move to other states, say live in New York, they might think New York has one thing, but when you go to another state, they have different services, some stuff they don't offer. So you gotta
Yeah.
really be careful, like when you're going and stuff like that, and making sure that you're protected because it's a lot of things that New York have that Georgia doesn't have, and even reaching out to the people is very complicated. So
Mhm.
that's what made me kind of halt, like with because I was calling and couldn't get information. I was like, wow, that's not good, So
Mhm.
that kind of halt me thinking about going because I didn't realize how much it took to prepare, to make a move like that, and
Yeah.
and so it made me a little nervous, to back up.
Yeah, I don't think it should stop you. I think just be informed and put in place the steps that you need to put in place or the tools that you need to put in place to make sure that your plan goes according to how you would want, right? But it's good that you're sort of even thinking that way.
That's just awesome that you said that. It's like someone
Oh, is
said
that your confirmation?
Yes, like I'm trying to get out of it. You're talking about I don't think you should stop that. And I'm like, okay, really?
Listen, there's obstacles all around us, right? You have 100% success rate of all the obstacles that you've been faced with because you're still here. So don't let that stop you. Just find the way around because there's always a way.
I like that, 100% success rate.
That's right.
And Sabine, you said something. Oh, sorry, Teresa. You said something that stood out to me, protecting the person who is taking over your will, because especially in communities of color, when someone passes, it's like, our grandma left me this and that, and you're left with all of this responsibility that, maybe that person one didn't even tell you you were now in charge of their will.
Right.
So having that conversation with them. And then I'm the sibling who's very quiet and very timid. And so I've had conversations before, like my dad, make sure that you clearly state who does what, because when you're not here, I don't want any problems. So having those conversations and making sure that those names and responsibilities are clearly spelled out. So when you're not here, there's no issue. So appreciate you sharing that as well.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so this, I just want to illustrate for you guys, because I think the consensus is that all you need is a will and all will be well, right? So I just want people to be aware. Sometimes a will is good enough for you. Sometimes it's sufficient to meet your goals and your desires, especially if you just have one kid and that's the only thing, and they're an adult, certain scenarios call for that. One, you should be aware of what it takes to actually transfer assets when you're using a will. And two, I wanted you guys to be aware that there are other ways to do so as well. So we talked about doing with as a beneficiary. That's a quick and easy automatic way. If you want them to get all of the assets at one time, and if that's seamless and that works for you, then you could do that. So this is what your state is planned for you. So this is what happens if you don't have a will, but also it's the same scenario if you do have a will. It still has to go through the court system. The only thing is that if you do have a will, it makes it easier because the courts know what you wanted. However, they can use their interpretation and their discretion as to what to do, right? So when someone's estate goes through probate, they typically have to get a lawyer because it can be a complicated process. Sometimes I've seen individuals do it themselves. If it's like a small estate, there's nothing complicated about it. You have the time and energy to go through the process and fill out all the paperwork, etc. Technically, it can be done. For more complicated scenarios, especially where the family members are at odds, you're going to have to get a lawyer. The courts are probably going to tell you to please get a lawyer, right? So you have attorney's fees potentially. You have executor fees. Unless you have a will and you list the executor and you say the executor doesn't get paid, there's going to be some sort of a fee, right? If the court appoints someone, they're going to appoint a professional. That professional has to get paid. If your assets are maybe say real estate may have to be appraised. If you have like trademarks or a business or something that the value is not clear and readily available, it will probably have to be appraised, right? Once that is appraised, you may have to pay bond premium. So that's what I stated earlier, is if your will doesn't say that no bond is needed, then that person might have to post a bond. If it's going through administration and there was no will, it's definitely going to be a bond that needs to be given, unless, again, if it's like just one family member or maybe siblings that can agree, maybe a bond wouldn't have to be posted. And then you have filing fees. So I say that to say, I don't want you to think that it just goes automatically. If you have a complicated situation or you think that your siblings or your children might be at odds, there might be issues, you might want to think of alternative planning than just using relying on a will. If you have young children, then you certainly need to have a will to deal with that aspect of it, but that doesn't have to be where your plan ends, right? So you don't want to, my view is you don't want to have the courts make decisions for you. So at minimum, a will be your basic planning document. But if you want to get more creative, like the scenario we talked about with Veronica, then you could start to introduce a trust and, build on that. And also know that you can start wherever you are, right? You don't have to, again, start with the most complex scenario. You can start with basic things. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is with the court process, it can take anywhere between 12 to 18 months to complete a probate process. So if you have people who are dependent on your income, young children, or anybody, maybe somebody with special needs, or anybody who's dependent on your income, essentially, you want to make sure that you consider that and how long that would sort of take for them to get access to it. I had a client who it was a husband and wife. They were married for like over 40 years. Most of the assets were in the wife's name and they had no plan in place. And so when she passed away, all of the mortgage payments and things like that were coming from her account. And because she had passed away and the husband was not on the account, he had to basically wait to get funds. And so they had to find different ways to get access to cash to pay the bills until he could get access to those funds. Luckily, one of his sons were very helpful in terms of helping him navigate that. But if he didn't have someone, like, so many things could have fallen apart, So you want to consider those timeframes when you are planning. Let me see if there's okay, any more hands. We could go to the next slide. Okay. So here we have some tools that we use for planning, right? We're just going to talk about the basics. Like, it can get more complex than this, but this is really your basic documents for the vast majority of people. These are the things that would be helpful, right? So you have your living trust and your will. We talked about trust a little bit. We talked about will, so I won't belabor that. I do have a slide that compares them, so we can kind of go through that. But I didn't talk about your power of attorney and your healthcare proxy. So your power of attorney is an extremely important document that every single person over the age of 18 should have. Why? Because once you turn 18, you're an adult. So your parents cannot make decisions for you. If you guys have kids in college or of that age, you can't make decisions for them anymore. So God forbid something happens to them, you're not making healthcare decisions, you're not able to access their bank accounts and things like that. You can't help in the way that you probably would want to, or that you have in the past. So it's a document that basically says, for the power of attorney, this individual whom I trust can make financial decisions for me. So pay my bills, fill out legal paperwork, deal with my business if that is the case, deal with my taxes, access benefits for me, etc. If there's some estate planning, you can have them, you could give that authority in your power of attorney as well. The power of attorney is only good while you are alive, right? While the person's alive, that power of attorney is effective. I have a story where I had a family who they were in the process of selling the property because they needed access to the cash for various reasons. And the father, who was the person who actually, whose name was on the property, he had a stroke and was not able to really make decisions. So in the process of the sale, they couldn't complete the sale because no one had authority to sign on his behalf. They had no power of attorney. And so when this happens, in order to get authority, you have to go through this whole court process to get guardianship or conservatorship, right? And you do not want to go through that process. It's lengthy. And if the courts determine that you're not the right person to be a guardian of this person, they'll put someone else as a guardian of the person. And then that becomes a whole nother thing. So with a simply putting a power of attorney in place, another simple thing that you could do, you actually empower someone to, have your back if something were to happen for you. Someone said, Nija said that she just engaged an attorney to update her legal documents and get docs for her children. Yep. Very good, Nija. That's exactly what you want to do. Yes. So it's a simple thing that can be done. You still have authority. You still manage your own affairs, right? But you have to do it while you have capacity, while you have sound mind. Once you don't have capacity, or you become where you cannot make decisions, or you don't understand the consequences of your decisions, you cannot put a power of attorney in place. That's why we have to plan ahead and not wait till we need it. Right. So this could be used if, even if you're out of state and you need someone to handle something for you, you can do that. And typically your power of attorney will be springing. So that means that no one can use it unless you actually don't have capacity, right? And one of the ways to determine that is you can have a doctor determine it, or you can have, a family member, your children or something determine it, that you don't have capacity. So there are ways, if you are concerned about giving away that authority or allowing somebody into your space like that, there are ways to sort of manage it so that you're not losing control of things. The other important thing is the healthcare proxy. So the healthcare proxy allows someone to make medical decisions for you if you're not able to. This is particularly important if you have concerns about maybe Western medicine, maybe the types of treatments that you would be wanting or willing to take. Maybe you are a vegan or something where you're like, I'm really particular about what goes into my body. You want to give instructions for somebody to make those decisions for you, the types of treatments and medications and things like that you might want. And so the healthcare proxy gives somebody those decisions if you cannot make those decisions for yourself. Again, this is only when you can't. And yep, I see you lighting up the chat. Thank you guys. But it's something that's also very imperative, and it's very easy for you to give those decisions. I had a client, a couple in there. They were fairly old. They were in their early 90s. The wife actually was suffering from cancer, but she was, being treated and everything like that. And the husband fell sick. And apparently it seemed like he was sick and didn't want to say anything because I guess, what she was going through. And they were so in love. Like they, when you see an old couple, you're like, wow, how do you guys so in love at this age? So when he fell sick, they found out that he needed surgery, but he was refusing the surgery. And the family's like, no, he's not in his right mind. Like he's not making decisions that we know he would make at this stage. And so, but because there was no healthcare proxy in place, they had no authority to make any decisions otherwise, right? And so that is one of the scenarios that it could have really, really helped the family. And one of the daughters was in the medical field. She was like a nurse. And so she knows the whole system and still was not able to, basically make that decision for him in that case. And so unfortunately he passed away. I don't know if things would have been different. I mean, he was very elderly, but still, every moment counts in life, and you want to just make sure that you can have the best treatment and the best care that you desire. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Has anyone had any experiences with these healthcare proxies, power of attorneys, anything that you want to share around that? Have you struggled in this area? Do you have any reservations about appointing someone that you want to discuss? No one? Okay, no problem. So we'll talk about this, the difference between a will and a trust, because I get this question a lot, and I'm always, I find that people have some sort of confusion around it. So I'd love to sort of clear that up. So both of these are legal documents, right? They're both legal documents where you can give instructions on how you want your assets to go. The difference here is that a will tells the court what to do with your assets, and it requires you to go through the court system. A trust is more like a business entity, right? So it's a contract between you and your trustee. The trustee is the person who's going to manage your trust. Typically, for most people, if they're creating a trust, they're going to be the trustee initially, if they're able, right? And so it's like a contract between you and yourself now, but it's for the benefit of your beneficiaries, those who are going to benefit for your estate. And the characteristics, the difference with the characteristics is that a trust can actually own the assets, whereas a will doesn't have that capability. So when we create a trust for you, you have to make sure that your trust is funded. And funding basically means that all of those assets that we talked about, your real estate, your investments, your bank accounts, your art, etc., all of that is then transferred to the trust. And each has a different way of transferring it to your trust. Once it's funded, your trust now can control and follow out those instructions as it pertains to those assets, right? So with a will, you need a fiduciary like an executor, which we talked about. And again, I told you it wasn't guaranteed because the courts have some discretion as to that. And then the equivalent for the trust is a trustee, which is guaranteed. It's going to be you and then whomever. And we always ask you to put alternates just in case someone is not around, right? Then the will tells the court what to do with your assets, goes to who and what. So it's only to who and what only that the will allows you to dictate, right? A trust allows you to say who, what, when, and how, right? Because the courts are going to say, all right, once we figure out to who, then we're going to give them whatever it is, and that's it, we're done. With the trust, you could say who, what it is, when do you want this to happen? Especially if you have assets where you don't want a child or something to get it $1 million at one time, right? Say you have an insurance policy or you have significant assets. I don't want them to get all of this at once. I want to spread it out so they're not overwhelmed or they don't waste, the assets. You want more control, right? So you get to say when and how, just like we talked about with the scenario with Veronica. It gives you that creativity to sort of design exactly how you want things to go, even when you're no longer here. So you can take care of your loved ones even when you're no longer here, right? Again, the will is distributed all at once. I talked about the trust must be funded. And with a will, you own the assets in life. And with the trust owns the assets in life, right? And then when you pass away, it's like plug and play. The person could just jump in, do what needs to happen, etc. A will is, with a will, it doesn't protect you during incapacity. So like we talked about, if you can't make decisions for yourself, you can't handle your financial affairs, your power of attorney, healthcare proxy can help with that. But your trustee also under your trust can manage all of your assets and your affairs because they will be the person to step in when you couldn't, right? And that's just like plug and play again. A will ends up being public because it has to be filed in court at the point of death or maybe earlier in some states. And but the trust remains private always. It never has to be filed. And so you continue to get that privacy. So those are the difference. Now, a trust is not for everyone. Maybe you have assets that could go directly. Maybe for your family situation, you don't necessarily need it. Or maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you can start with a will because a will still is necessary as your base document. Even when we do a trust, we do what's called a pour over will as a companion to it. And what that pour over will does, one is going to contain any directions if you have small children that you want to protect or benefit. Who is going to be the person to care for those kids if you're not there? That's very important, especially if you're a single parent. All single parents, if you know any, make sure they have a will because who's going to take care of their child? It may not be the person they want it may not be the person who looks best on paper, which is what the courts are going to look like. It may be the person who has the same values and the same, environment, the same structure that you would want, right? So that pour over will that accompanies a trust is going to include any of that. And then it's also going to say, if there were any assets that were not owned by my trust, what I want you to do, court, is just transfer those assets to my trust and let my trustee handle everything, right? It's like a fast track through the court system. So we still use a will. A will is still valuable, but if you have, I would say over 100K and or real estate, you may be a good candidate for a trust. So you might want to look into that. We always look at, does it make sense for you financially to even do a trust? So I never try to push people into something they're not ready for, but I know how it can help people alleviate the stress, the madness, keep things private. The privacy aspect is really important where you have family members that could be at odds, because not everybody gets to know what the assets were and who they're going to. Whereas with a will, everybody has to know, everybody's notified. The court's going to send them a letter if you can't contact them, right? So there's that. But those are the differences. Anybody have any aha or wow moments regarding these differences? Did you think something different as it relates to wills and trusts? Anybody? There's no right or wrong answers.
Well, we have a wow effect from Valencia. Valencia,
Yes.
what was that? What was that in regards to?
Hold on. I'm sorry.
I said we had a wow effect from you. What was your wow for?
Oh, about pretty much being a single mom, and as far as the healthcare proxy as well, because I'm vegan, so I didn't really consider any of this stuff. Again, I work for a financial firm, and when a client does ask us for like wills and everything, we're not trained in that part. We just refer out, just to have this like information from you, and it's just amazing, and again, as you said, like if I pass today, who does my kids go to? I have 3, a newborn, it's just, it's an on-time blessing. It's
Awesome.
from you. It really, honestly, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement.
And we have
Amal. Thank you.
I was going to say that also before we get to Mama Amal, that we have Teresa from Facebook. And she shared, there is no concern with planning. When my father was sick and died, there was much confusion. Majority of his assets went toward long-term care costs. Last year, I completed my will. I need to update my beneficiaries on a few accounts, making sure my son and sister are aware of where these documents and details are located, the will, healthcare proxy, account manager info, etc.
Awesome. Good. I mean, I love that. One of the reasons why I love talking about this stuff is because I want people to be aware, and I want you guys to have these conversations and spread the word. And if you hear somebody going through something, like, well, you need to actually do something, or there's something that you could do ahead of time. There's always something we could do ahead of time. So definitely help, help educate those around you. Amal.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a mind blower, Pazabi. It really is.
Hey.
So, wow. My first thought is just find somebody you can talk to help you sort through all of this, because this is just so over my head. It is just not even funny. And since I've been working with Woo, I've gained some assets in the market, and I've got Bitcoin, and I've got silver coins, and my annuities I had before. And so now I'm thinking, I don't even know where to take the first step. So I would imagine the first step is just to find someone to help me work through that. Would that be an attorney first, or would that be someone who is a layperson who can help me lay out what it is I need?
So an attorney would be a good start, because they're the ones who can implement your actual plan. If you would like to work with us, we welcome you, but you could certainly, if you have an attorney that you're referred to, that's great. Just make sure that this is what they do, and you want to pay attention to the questions that they're asking you. Are they asking you your goals, or are you like, I need a will, and they're like, okay, here's a will? Are they like, well, what are your goals? What do you actually want to see? Do you have insurance? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like, they should be making sure that they're covering your whole picture. And things like, oh, do you have investments? Are you interested in investing? What is your long-term plan, etc. These are the questions that they should be asking you. So you kind of know, all right, I'm dealing with the right person. You know, do they care? Are they compassionate? All of that stuff is necessary in this area of law.
When you say professionals like us, I got on late because I usually do something in the morning. So I missed who you are and what type of profession you are in.
I'm an attorney and I run a practice out of New York, also licensed in New Jersey. And we have service partners in other states that allow us to plan for individuals. And we focus on estate and legacy planning. So we help, plan legacies, protect your assets, and put the generational into generational wealth.
But what about Michigan? Do you have people in Michigan, and then how would I search out? It would be estate planning, whatever. How would I search that out?
Yeah, it's just you would want to look for an estate planning attorney. Okay. You could certainly reach out to us. They'll I think we're towards the end, so my information will be put in the chat again. Also, I wanted to Chantel, let me just send her a message. Yep. I was gonna say, could I add a PDF in the chat? Would that be okay? It's a legacy lifeline. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. So this is hopefully, yep, there it goes. So you guys could download this. It also has my information, but it is a document that will allow you to put instructions on where everything that you have is, right? Where is it stored? Like, what are the accounts? What's for my kids? What's emergency? Where are my insurance policies? So this is like, even if you did nothing else, this would be a tremendous help. Of course, I want you to, get your whole situation evaluated.
Which is awesome, Sabine.
Can you all see it? I forgot about that.
Can you all see it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's a good place to help you start. At least you're thinking about and gathering your assets and making it a little bit easier so that everything is acknowledged. Awesome. Yeah. Any other questions anyone else want to share? We have about 3 more minutes, or do you want to take it back, Chantel?
Oh, if you have anything else, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We're good. I'm good here.
I have a question.
Sure.
That PDF that you just displayed, I'm on my phone, so I can't really get that. Is there a way to get that like in an email or in a link?
Yes, so I can send that to you, right, team?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll get that over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right. And Sabine, are you done? You wanted me to pull up your contact?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sure thing.
I want to give a shout out to my sister Miriam in the house. Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you for bringing the new people.
Sure.
You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you. She has to say that. She's my sister. No.
No, I don't.
You are doing an awesome job, Sabine. Thank you for dropping so many gems today in this community.
No problem.
A lot of learning going on. So take it away. Who are you? How can we keep in touch?
Yes. Thank you all. I'm Sabine Franco. I'm known on social media as Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. Again, I'm a trust and estates attorney. We help individuals plan their legacies, get clarity on their financial picture and where they'd like to go. On IG, I'm Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. Actually, there's no underscore, so ignore that. My apologies. On YouTube, Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. I have a YouTube channel where I share videos about all of this information and hot topics that may come up from time to time out. And I will interview people who are helpful to spread this information as well. On LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me, Sabine Franco. This is my office number, my website. And if you guys want to email us, yep, they got it there in the chat. So I'll be happy to connect with you guys. Oh, I also have a book. I wrote a book called You're Richer Than You Think to sort of, help with this as well. As many ways that I can help get the information out, I'd like to. And, just to share and impact people. And I actually wanted to just tell a quick story that I skipped over. To let people know that you do not want to wait to plan and that it's never too early, and don't think that you have time. So last year, I'm 39 now. Last year I was 38, had an 8-year-old, or have I have a 9-year-old now, but she was 8 and I'm married. And I found out last summer that I had uterine cancer. And so I was not someone who was a candidate, did not have any signs or anything that would have indicated that this is the thing that's happened or that this would happen to me. It's not in my family. And so I found that out. Luckily, I had an estate plan in place because this is what I do. But most young people don't, and most older people don't, right? Like less than less than 50% of people, especially in the Black community, have a plan in place. Luckily, I caught it early. I was able to get treated. And it was a quick fix, essentially, compared to what people go through. So I sit here today healthy, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to have that experience so that I could share with people, and hopefully it impacts you to make a move, right? Just don't wait, because there are too many pieces that could fall, right? There are too many pieces that could fall and too many people that could be left uncared for. And the wealth that you work so hard to create, that should go to someone. That should go to a cause, whatever it is that you desire. You're here to make an impact. You're here to leave a legacy. We all have one to leave, right? What is that going to be for you? You get to decide. So that's what I wanted to say.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that testimony, because that's real for a lot of people. Thank you. And I also dropped a link for the Legacy Lifeline, the PDF. So if you weren't able to open the PDF, I made it something on the Google.
You guys are awesome.
Let us work for you. Let us admin for you.
That's
okay?
right.
All right. So let me pull up your special offer. And you mentioned your book and your Lifeline, your free legacy evaluation. So what are the participants getting today in the community?
Yeah, so we are, my team wants to help everyone that we can. You have no obligation to book with us, to plan with us. You can still meet with us and get educated. So we're going to do a 15-minute discovery call, and just to find out where you are and what sort of guidance we would need to give you, and to see if you could qualify for a free legacy evaluation. That's where we have you fill out a questionnaire, meet with you, where you could meet with one of my attorneys, and kind of go through all of your assets and what does that sort of look like for you? What sort of desires do you have in terms of creating your legacy? And then, we give you your options, and then you could decide. We're not salesy. We don't have any pushy sales tactics. We really just, are genuinely want to help. And so that's what we have available for you. Typically, the evaluation is $750. It will be free for you guys. So if you want to take advantage of that, please tap in.
So everyone's going to email you. How do we contact you for that?
There should have been I think the link was dropped in the chat.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
And then the link to purchase my book, if you are interested, is there as well.
Awesome. And you come from a dynamic team of amazing people. We've had Angie already, and Rebecca, and now you, and Cody is going to be here next week. You guys are giving us the full package and making sure that we are planning properly for the future. So thank you all for sharing your gifts in this community with us.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. All right. And how can we repay you for all this amazing knowledge and information?
Thank you, guys. It's really a labor of love. If you would like to show some love back, that's okay with me. So you could Zelle to soulleadershipdevelopment@gmail.com, or you could send your Cash App to Spirit of a Woman, and the code is 618SF. I appreciate you all in advance for whatever you desire or whatever's on your heart. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. All right. And so, like Sabine said, this is all a labor of love, but we want to continue to pour into our facilitators and say thank you for everything that they drop in this space for us and things that we wouldn't have had access to before. So thank you again for being one of those facilitators, Sabine.
Sure.
And you can all give monthly automated if you sign up through one of these bit.lys. So that's going to be dropped in the chat as well. I always say it's like paying your tithes, you're pouring into someone else and getting this information to you every morning. All right, and up next we have Jalisa. Nothing is left to chance, and she'll be here tomorrow, Wednesday the 29th, and our very own Kinyofu, who is going to teach us about the magic in our pantries. So what is in there that we can utilize? And that's going to be Thursday morning. And of course, we want to welcome all of our new members. And Sabine, thank you for bringing so many new people into the space today.
You're welcome. I'm excited.
Yes, all these new faces and names. So please come back, join us for future sessions. We love to have you in the community. We talk about different things all the time. And so you got something out of this, and you'll continue to get some juicy information if you stick around with us. So that's in the chat as well, where you register through the bit.ly, and you can get updates of who's coming up next. And so our schedule is Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We are here from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So you get a full 90 minutes. Sometimes we go over because it just gets that good. And then we have our Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. when you get a little bit of it, and then you can come back for more or reach out to the facilitator to get some more information. And then we also live stream on Facebook if you can't come into the Zoom space with us. And we ask that you text to Woo Nation at 74121 if you want to get those weekly reminders. And of course, we have our swag, our Woo swag. So you can take Woo with you anywhere you go. You have your mugs. We're here in the summertime. Take your tote bags to the beach, maybe journal by the water. You have your water mug and everything here. So the link for that is in the chat as well. And get ready for the summer with your Woo swag. And again, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. And you can register at bit.ly Wake Up Movement. You can join our Facebook group. So that's where you'll find the replays as well. So we have a private group, which is bit.ly/Woo Community, and bit.ly/Woo Nation, which is our public site. And then we are also on Instagram, YouTube, and you can send us an email if you have any questions, concerns, or if you want to find out more information about us. So now I'm going to take down a slide, and I'm going to unmute everybody so that we can shower you with some love this morning. Sabine, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Peace
you.
and blessings to you,
I
your family,
love
very
Woo
much.
so much. We get
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
good
you
stuff.
so much.
Have a
Thank
blessed
you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining the family.
God bless you.
Thank you.
evident.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine.
I got that too.
Tell,
And your
teaching the
passion
family.
and sharing this information with
Let's keep
us.
building and let's
So
move
thank
forward.
you so very much.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
so
you, thank you, thank
informative.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're
Love
welcome.
y'all.
Lift
And let's
you
move
up,
forward.
Sabine.
Thank you.
Stay
Amazing.
healthy and well and keep sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Yes.
you.
Love you, love you.
Have a great day. Love
Love
y'all.
you
Have a
all.
great day.
Awesome.